last night you told me something very important.
Yeah.
You said that you were being used by a research agency, a defence research agency, to telepathically communicate with other craft, so they would come in and they would shoot them down.
That's entirely correct. Yeah, that's the way they would do. That's the specific method that they discovered they could use on me personally, just because I was a telepathic contactee.
So you were basically the lamb bringing the bait in.
I was the maggot on the end of the hook, definitely.
Yeah. Now, could you explain the background to all that and what the heck was involved?
They seemed to just jump on whatever part of the UFO specialism you've discovered or is an interest to you, and then they'll exploit that, whatever it is, to shoot the UFOs down.
Of what agency was it? I mean, you talked about a lady who had a baby and it was very distressing, and how nasty they were.
Yeah, at the time at the Longtown Sandy Sike base, 1999, there was a programmer there, and it was a Defence Evaluation Research Agency programmer.
DERA?
Yes.
Explain what all that's about, how you got there, everything.
They seem to have the ability to program human minds. Unfortunately, they've discovered our natural brainwave frequencies, our biological brainwave frequencies, and they've took those frequencies and put it inside frequency weapons. So they've got hardware that is identical in frequency to the human natural brainwaves in a human's body and brain.
Explain.
I guess our brains are like an electrochemical computer, which is the best description I was given in my first year student accommodation by a gentleman called Richard that used to come and visit me. He was also a student, but he was studying psychology, so he knew a lot more about psychology and psychiatry and mental issues, because he was on a different course than me at the same university.
So what about these frequency weapons on the base? And could you say really what that base was? Where was it?
Yeah, it was just north of Carlisle, about 10 miles north of Carlisle's Longtown.
Yeah.
And you've got Sandy Sike, which is about 2 miles south of Longtown. And it's definitely some kind of a base. I was offered a job in the space field there when I took a long walk home. Instead of taking the direct route along the A7, I took a long walk round, and a gentleman was at a truck and he offered me a job in the space field.
What is the space field?
I guess it's got different subjects, different agendas, but this one was just obsessed with exploiting whatever weak point they could find to shoot them down. So I wanted nothing to do with it when I found out what it was really for. So I got the hell out of there within a year.
Okay. Within a year, that's a long time. 9 months, 10 months, or what, 11 months? How long was it?
Yeah, about a year.
So can you go into greater detail as to what you were doing day to day, and what did it involve, and who did you talk to, what sort of things did you go through? I mean, you must have gone through lots of different training courses or jobs or things.
Well, it was a beautiful place in the country to live for a year. Lots of farmland and beautiful rivers. So I would go off on little river walks, to further up the River Line or River Lynn, however they pronounce it locally, or what you see on the map. I couldn't get work there, I didn't have a car, and the buses was one bus every hour, so it was quite remote, quite isolated. But there was no work, Well, there was no work that would have been, normal work, responsible work, good work, so.
What did you do there? Who did you see? Did you get a badge? Were you given a clearance or what?
No, nothing like that. The lady next door was a DERA programmer. I'm not going to name names, because...
Only say what you want to say.
Yeah.
Okay, but the woman next door, where were you living? I mean, what's the place like?
Well, when I first moved in, they said it was a small linear settlement at Sandy Sike, and earlier on during... I don't know whether it was directly at World War II or when, but they said that the houses at Sandy Sike were built as ex-MOD police houses. It was a very nice area, but there was no work that would interest me, or it was there, and because I didn't take up their offer of a job in the space field or with the Defence Agency, they wouldn't let me know too much. I'm not signing the Official Secrets Act. I'm not doing any dirty work. So
you've been there for if you were there for a couple of days and they decided to tell you where to go, that's one thing. But you were there for almost a year.
Yeah.
So, what did you do on Monday morning, and what did you do on Tuesday?
Well, I had to go into the city to claim my job seekers allowance. But it just about paid the bills. But I resorted to going to the local supermarket on my mountain bike with a rucksack twice a week just to get me flipping shopping in. Didn't have a car or anything. The buses were terrible. Just one bus an hour. But I would have little country walks further upstream to the River Line. That was nice to get away from the programming and the torture at the Sandy Sike home.
Where was this programming? Where did it happen? What involved? How did you physically get there?
It was usually at night in my bedroom and stuff. But
okay, well, let's deal with the usual. What was involved? Now, if this may involve you having, I don't want you to be distressed in any way, but we need to know what happened. So I'm going to have to ask you questions that detail what happened.
They were just obsessed with erasing my brain, programming my brain. They would say things like, it doesn't matter if they're ugly bastards, meaning the aliens. Comply with the field operation. It doesn't matter if they're ugly bastards. Get me a spaceship. All that kind of crap. That's
what do you mean it doesn't matter if they're ugly bastards? That would imply that a lot of them aren't ugly. Different types.
I think it was just their excuse to try and persuade me that whatever alien came down, it doesn't matter as long as we get some more UFO technology. I guess beauty's skin deep anyway.
Can you elaborate? I mean, can you go back to what happened on your first day, for instance?
On the first day, my father helped me move in and stuff, and they were watching me move my stuff in. But no, moving house anywhere, anyone's stressful, But, yeah.
So did you just basically move there, and what happened?
They started programming me. No, I would.
Now, who's they, and what did they start with?
Well, they were trying to override my natural thinking.
Can you recall what was involved with them doing that?
There was something in the walls, I think, and I think they possibly had handheld frequency weapons as well. And there's an important link with the Greenham Common women when they protested about nuclear weapons.
Now, that's something that we've covered in basis before. The Greenham Common women were being used for programming.
Yeah.
Could you explain what you know about that?
The similar kind of weapons were used on the Greenham Common women, and they died of cancer.
And what were those weapons?
Frequency weapons.
Do you know anything about what was used, or frequencies, or
what
they looked like?
It took me about between 10 and 16 years for me to really get a grasp and understand what was really happening, what was really going on. It took that long, 10 to 16 years, just to come to terms with all the science behind it, what was really happening, you know.
And what is the science behind it? What do you know about that?
They override our thinking with the same frequencies of natural biological human brainwaves, but they've got it in a electronic gun, an electronic frequency zapper, blaster. I don't know what.
Did you see one of these or what? Or?
I've never seen one, no. If you get to see that weapon or take a photo or scan it with a Geiger counter, then you can prosecute them. That's why they conceal them behind walls. I think I've learned they'll fire them from behind the wall or from behind a curtain, or you know. So.
What do you mean a Geiger counter?
There are a few things on the market now that can be used to measure all kinds of different things. Don't get me wrong, some of them are used for very good purposes. Electricians and stuff. There's a lot of good use that can come out of them. But unfortunately there's a lot of bad things as well.
Do you have any precise numbers and figures about what frequencies that we're talking about?
Yeah. I've even got a witness. My old CPN was with me. They had to back off big time when this became apparent to them.
Who's your old CPN? What?
Yeah, I'm not going to name her because they might go after her.
Yeah, but can you give what is a CPN?
Yeah, a community psychiatric nurse.
Okay.
So she was driving a car. I'm in the front passenger seat with my handheld Geiger counter. And there's a
Geiger counter measures radiation.
Yeah.
Why did you have a radiation measurement thing? I mean, do you know the difference between a radio frequency meter and a Geiger counter?
A little bit, yeah. There's a lot of different frequencies and different doses and different rates and things, but the important point is that my CPN was driving the car. I was in the front passenger seat with my portable handheld Geiger counter, just in normal scan mode behind the windscreen, and we had a 4x4 vehicle in front of us. It had the classic spare tyre container on the back, and I was suspicious it could be something else, so I had my Geiger counter scanning it, and it came back reading about 4 times the height, 4 times higher than the I had my handheld Geiger counter in there. It scanned the 4x4 car in front of us, and it came back reading 4 times higher than natural background radiation for the specific frequency we were reading, which was in nanoteslas. It came back at about 450 nanoteslas. And when it became apparent to them that I had done this and I had a witness, they had to back off big time with some of these 4x4s. They're also known as UAVs, which are urban assault vehicles.
Yeah.
They hide the ELF drum in the disguise. It's just a natural spare tyre container on the back of the vehicle. But
so one would have to watch for a 4x4 that overtakes you, for instance, and then sits in front of you.
definitely.
Okay, so what led you to being moved out and going to this base location? You know, you weren't in the base. You were simply housed beside it. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. But they were using the houses as well. There were probably, some of them were probably security personnel. Because my other side of the neighbours, they were always in, if you know what I mean. They rarely went very far. They were probably on the payroll, but secretly.
Were there any strange colours or bright colours, or you know, in the house you stayed in? Did you have were the rooms painted different colours or what? Anything like that?
No, no.
Any designs on the walls or anything like that? Which,
No.
I mean, could you describe the house?
I have a few pictures here.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to hold that up to the camera there? Just there. Yeah. If you just there, we'll get that. Right. That's just gives us an idea roughly of what it is. Okay. If you just talk about that, we'll get that in. Yeah.
This is the linear settlement of Sandy Sike, approximately 12 terraced houses.
Yes.
And this is just off the base at Longtown and Sandy Sike. But this is Sandy Sike. Longtown's 2 miles to the north.
You were talking about the girlfriend.
Yeah.
But you think it was a setup? You had a girlfriend for 3 years?
Yeah, I had a girlfriend for 3 years. Unfortunately, she was an army corporal's daughter. And he apologised when I moved back to Sunderland. When I first met her father, he goes...
Was this after you'd been at the base?
Yep, yep. I had to get away from the base, so I managed to get in some Sunderland accommodation there, because obviously, being a Sunderland undergraduate, Sunderland was familiar to me. My second home, if you will.
And you think that she was a plant?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think she was there to help me get over the torturing and the brainwashing, but then also to
take care of you?
Yeah,
monitor your progress?
Yeah. There was one time when we were threatening to end the relationship between me and her, and she turned around and said, "This relationship better work or it will be suicide. Please talk." That's what she said. I'm not naming her. That's what she said.
Police talk?
Yeah.
Or please talk?
No, Police.
Yeah, okay.
That's what she said. This relationship had better work or it will be suicide. Please talk. That's what she said.
Well, that's a very friendly, loving and caring exchange of words between somebody who has a great emotional tie to you.
Yeah, it would have been her father telling her what to do.
Okay. Well, we had a slight pause there because you were looking for a photograph.
Yeah.
So could you show the photograph?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that looks like three separate clouds, but there's a sort of triangular shape there, but also you've drawn on the photograph a flying saucer of some kind, or what?
Yeah, this is the base at Sandy Sike. Looking south, it looks for all the world just like a normal farm. You've got the farmer's field and the farmhouse in the background. The official base is just at Longtown there. You see the odd 4-ton army green truck now and then, but yeah, the BAD base is just around there, signposted.
Right, so there's no big deal about that really, but the main area which you're talking about is down there. You can see on the screen there. Could you?
Yeah.
That's the oak wood.
Yeah, they've got landing pads for the spacecraft screened by trees and hedges. The cover story is Sandy Sike bathroom shop or garden shed manufacturer, but the cover story was that they were just foundations left from old demolished buildings, but the foundations are the landing pads, the concrete landing pads for the spacecraft.
And would you see them come in?
Yeah, I've seen a couple come in at night, like you just said. Yeah.
And that was way back in 1999.
Yeah.
So what happens these days?
I haven't a clue. Couldn't get out of there fast enough. I was only there a year to get away from the torture and the brainwashing. So.
Okay, well thank you very much.
Unfortunately, I'm taking a photo from my council house to help my memories of when the UFO crashed in the dead of night, in the darkness of night.
Is this a UFO that you brought in, you tricked to come in?
I wasn't tricking it, I was trying to initiate a normal telepathic contact.
Because you didn't know they were going to shoot it down?
No. I was used, I was set up, I was deceived for it, unfortunately. I was trying to initiate peaceful telepathic contact.
Yeah.
Just as a hobby or an interest. When I realised it was all real. They tricked, used and deceived me. And the end result was a horrible UFO crash.
I mean, this is obviously taken some time later.
Yeah, yeah.
How many years?
I went back a few years later after I'd moved back into Carlisle and Cumbria anyway. So there was a guy keeping an eye on me from the Winters caravan compound, probably base security. He didn't bother me. I was able to get a couple of photos just to
At what stage did that happen in your period when you were at the base? And what's the name of the base again?
Yeah, it's Sandy Sike.
Sandy Sike.
Yeah, it's linked to Longtown base though. There is a military base at Longtown called BAD Longtown, which stands for Base Ammunitions Depot. So they store all kinds of things in there.
Having said that, you did mention that at the nuclear power station, which has been knocked down, that they've made weapons there.
Unfortunately, yeah. My uncle found that out, probably just through local press later on. But yeah, we just all thought it was a normal nuclear power station generating electricity.
But did your uncle work on the base?
No. No, my father worked at Sellafield for a couple of years, only as a contractor.
Okay, well let's get back to you being at this base.
Yeah.
And the programming and things. Can you go into what happened there? And then obviously ultimately you're being used to bring craft in so they could basically get the technology.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The Billy Meyer case is the one for me that really struck home as hard evidence. The documentaries and then your own experiences, and when they're put together.
So can you essentially, I'd like to talk about your own experiences later, but what I want to concentrate on is what happened at that base while you were being programmed. What was involved there?
They were just obsessed with trying to shoot UFOs down. If someone else has a different part of the equation, a different specialism or ability, and you're under surveillance, they know your weak spots, they know your strong points, then they choose what to try and exploit it for. I do believe Dr. Stephen Greer has been exploited for the same thing, unfortunately.
And what do you know about Stephen Greer?
I read a little bit about it. They're initiating a contact group. They're not sure which type, but it's just my own personal opinion that he's possibly being used for the same shoot down methods or similar shoot down methods, which is a shame.
Did you know that you were going to be involved with this base?
No, I was completely deceived and set up.
Who deceived you and what happened?
I don't want to name names, but they knew at university that I was a contactee. In our final year at Diggs, there was an SAS man and a field op living with us.
Oh, the old SAS man and a field op living with you?
Yeah.
In the Diggs?
Yeah, posing as students, but that was just a cover.
And what happened that they revealed, or you found out that they were military spies?
Yeah. In our final year at university, the SAS man would shout down into my student room, "Summon the UFO!" Shut up!
As blatant as that?
Yeah. Yeah. I looked out of the window once at his student digs, and whether it was a light or a lamppost or whatever, just looking like that and then back in, and this SAS man, "Was that a UFO?" I didn't answer him.
So they were taking the piss then?
Yeah, yeah. They weren't students, they were posing as students. He was an SAS man.
And what about the other guy?
He was a field operative. He knew about the field society. And he said, "Will you help us get an alien?" He said, "Will you help us get an alien? Porton down wants one because they've got acid for blood." And he was supposed to be a student as well. Will you help us get an alien? Porton down wants one to figure out how to kill them because they've got acid for blood."
That's out of the Alien movies.
No, he was a field op. He expected me to watch a lot of Star Trek with him. Oh, piss off, mate. Sorry for swearing.
I told you, don't fucking swear in the studio. Now, you mentioned Porton Down, and which is very close to here.
Is it?
Porton Down and Boscombe Down is just 10 miles from here, besides Stonehenge. Did you know that?
No.
Stonehenge is surrounded by big military bases, Boscombe Down and Porton Down.
Right, right.
You're perfectly safe here. We've only got a whole batch of secret underground alien tunnels, and the town is full of ghosts.
There's a knock at the door, Michael.
Is there? Oh, Jesus God! I'm expecting a package. Jesus. So, this was when? This is how many years ago?
Student digs, final year, about 1997, 98.
So did you get them an acid alien for Boscombe and Porton Down?
I believe the occupants of the UFOs that were shot down were greys. Like those.
Now, let's. Okay. Okay. So that was from a flying saucer review. Yeah.
Right. When I was still living up at my parents' house in a North Cumbrian suburb, I was abducted by some, and I was held down on my bed, and I couldn't speak, and I couldn't move. I was paralysed and dumb. And the big grey was standing over me, and he goes, "Shall we cut your arm off to make you like Billy Moyer?" So they knew I was going to have contact with the Pleiadians before I did. I don't know how they knew that.
Could you describe the greys that you saw in as much detail as possible?
Just similar to those ones, but taller. Yeah. Similar to those ones, but taller.
Okay. Right. Now, when you say taller, what do you call short and what do you call tall?
Yeah, probably about 4 foot tall, the small greys, and the big greys are about 6.5 foot.
So the tall one, was it a slightly different complexion to the other ones?
It looked pretty similar, it was just taller. It threatened to cut my arm off to make me like Billy Meyer. Now, how the hell they knew that I was going to be played in Contactee before, I don't know. But they seem to know.
And what else happened in that abduction situation? I mean, you were held down in bed, but
Yeah. Well, I was paralysed, couldn't talk, and my parents were in the house at the time. They were downstairs preparing a meal, and the TV was on. I couldn't move, couldn't speak.
can you give me any specifics of the number of fingers or the eyes or anything like that?
No, just what I've already said with those there. Yeah, but they appear to be able to be invisible. I realise the eyes in there are black, but the ones that I see coming for me, when they come through from an invisible spectrum, they're large white eyes, and they were making a crackling static electric sound as they were crossing over from invisibility into our optical visual spectrum of humans' light that we can see.
So their eyes went from a white to a black?
No, they were just like, they were the same shape as the grey eyes there, but they weren't black, they were bright white. Maybe it had a suit on, or it was something to do with while it crosses over from one.
So their eyes were bright white as they crossed, or
Yeah.
after they crossed, were they still like that?
I couldn't see after that.
So how many were there?
I think there was only about two.
One tall one and two small ones? Or just two, one's short and one tall?
I seen the UFO spinning down and the entity coming there and then the entity coming there. So I think there's probably two. One small and one tall. But this is a strange bit. Now I've got recall I would like to add here. A few years later, when I moved to my present location in Carlisle and I got back from a five-a-side football game, I took a bath and I got out of the bath and my shin was all swollen up and I didn't know what the hell it was. So I put some shorts on and I just potted around the flat for a bit, not thinking anything of it. And then I went to bed that night. I didn't know if it was broken or anything, so I just left it like that and went to bed. And in the middle of the night I had a conscious recall of a grey abduction and what they were doing. The conscious recall of the abduction was that I'd actually broken my leg.
Yeah.
I'd actually broken my right leg. And the greys had like a laser pen device and they were fixing the fractured bone in my lower leg with some kind of a laser pen device.
Yeah.
And they had an interpreter because they didn't know my language.
What exactly did that involve, the interpreter?
I don't know. I think maybe that the grey that had this ability to do this kind of surgery with the laser pen was different to one of the ones that they was accompanied by. So,
Now, have you had any physical X-rays of your legs? Have you had any? I mean, you've got a bit of a dodgy knee. What happened there?
the knees, I think that's cartilage problems. Yeah, I do believe I've got an implant in my head there and possibly a one in the leg as well. But they were good greys healing my broken leg, so they're obviously the same as us humans. They are good and bad within the same race. So And that took a long time to learn. Same as what Mary Rodwell was saying. At first, I misunderstood the Greys. You know, obviously, the same as us.
Have you spoken to Mary?
I've spoken to Mary briefly. I've met her at a couple of conferences. But yeah, her work is absolutely fascinating and definitely true. A lot of people having similar experiences now.
Okay, so we've got that abduction. With the healing the broken leg. What else happened during that event?
One of my aerosol cans was knocked off the shelf, and I woke up in like a hysterical laugh once as well. I don't know what that was about.
Can you remember past why you woke up and why you were laughing?
No.
Okay, so let's get back to this base and what they were torturing you and things. And this is, I don't want to go over painful ground, but we've got to understand. We've got to find out what happened. Was this all done in your house?
Yeah, supposed to be a council house, normal council house. It was anything but.
Apart from them, what happened when they came, or how many people came to the house?
The Greys or the reptilians or the police or what?
Well, tell us a whole lot. They might have had a party.
It was mostly DERA programmers next door, working shifts and stuff. And there's reptiles following me. Where I would go to the river, they would follow me, and you could see the flashing diagonal belts and stuff.
Right. Now, were the belts flashing, or would it just look pretty cool?
That's all you could see, like a diagonal belt across there. Same as some of the Greys, they seem to have an ability to live in a frequency that the human eye just can't see.
Can you? But you can. Is that right?
I can't. It's when they cross over. It's when they cross from one visual spectrum.
So we're talking about you having nice peaceful walks in the countryside.
Yeah.
Up there in Cumbria.
Yeah.
And you got a reptilian ET following you.
Yeah.
How many of them would you deal with when you had your country walks?
It's hard to say. Usually 2 or 3 there, but.
And what did they look like? What did the beings you saw look like?
Just the usual big, tall, strong 7-footers. Green, very tough. But difficult to see them unless they want you to see them. If they don't want you to see them, they'll just stay in their cloaked invisible spectrum. If they want you to see them, or they're coming to attack you, then you'll see them.
Were you attacked by them?
Yeah, a few times.
And what did that involve?
Threats, weapons, comply with the field, or get me a space, or barking orders.
Now that's the SAS guy at the university. Were the reptilians saying the same sort of thing?
Yeah.
So are you suggesting that the SAS man was actually a reptilian?
No, working with the retrieval teams for the British Army, but I think it's the reptilians behind it, because they want Palladian technology. So I think the armed forces are being used.
By the reptilians?
Yeah.
And the Greys?
The Greys are deceiving us. The bad one.
And what do they do when there's deception? What do they do, and then how do you know that they are deceiving us?
When I got all the Palladian information through, I got threats. The for them to cut my arm off. So, and they came for me straight away when I got all the documents from Bristol up to the RAF base. So we've got some of the information to stop the deception slow takeover with the tetramasts and the implants and the tap water and all that. And the time coordinates, that's the big one. So
What are the time coordinates?
yeah, the first time coordinates that they have told us is 2976 AD, and I believe there are 2 sets of time coordinates they would still like to share with us. One has possibly been printed in Nexus so far, I'm not sure. They say we have 300 years to change course with various parts of our society to avert a new nuclear disaster in the future. So that's quite a lot of time to wake up and listen to the good ones, I think.
Well, since these things seem to live about 800 or 900 years, it's not much time in their scale of things.
That's a brilliant point to remember. Thank you.
If you can explain what this is, it's important. I don't want you to be distressed, but take your time. We need to find out.
Bombarded through the partition wall with ELF drums in the wall or frequency weapons fired through the wall. Much like a radio wave can travel through a brick wall, just different frequencies. They were overriding my natural thought processes. They were overriding my natural biological brain waves. So.
And what happened with that when they did that?
Yeah, well, particularly in my bedroom or my living room. As soon as I would enter my bedroom, my thought processes were changing. I was in control of my own life, my own behaviour, my own thoughts 1 minute, such as in the garden or the downstairs kitchen or whatever. Then if I would go up into my bedroom, everything changed. All my thought processes were being hijacked, taken over and interfered with.
Was there anything in the bedroom which assisted them?
No, because if there was, I could have used it in evidence. It was either in the partition wall or frequency weapons fired at me through the partition wall.
Did you have any meters or anything which could indicate that, or in any way?
Yeah, I had a cell sensor meter at the time. I've now got a far better Geiger counter to help. But yeah. I had what's called a cell sensor. I believe I might still have it at home now. Yeah.
Right.
And that measured a few things while I was there.
Do you know what characteristics those things had in terms of what frequencies they could measure?
Right, it was just a basic cheap one, but it was enough to confirm my worst suspicions and fears that there were ELF programming frequency wave intrusions in my bedroom.
So you're mentioning Geiger counter. What units did the thing measure in?
Yeah, it's got 2 scales. I preferred the nano Teslas scale. It's got a conversion rate on the back of the meter, so take your pick, I guess.
What was the other scale?
I think it might have been micro Siemens or something, I can't remember.
I think it's micro silvers.
Micro silvers.
Yeah.
I preferred to use nano Teslas at the time. So.
What other cases and events happened there that you can tell us about?
Just that they were obsessed with programming people and shooting UFOs down. They offered me a job in the space field, but my Palladian contact said don't bother. So I often wonder in hindsight, if they hadn't brainwashed my degree out, I might have took up their offer to work in the space field or with the Defence Agency.
Right.
Hindsight. There was some kind of an abduction between me and my neighbour. I'd never set foot in her house, she'd never set foot in mine. She come to the door one day, her own front door, and she says, "I'm pregnant, I'll probably burn it." I thought, what, bloody hell. And then I got threats, if I didn't help them shoot UFOs down, they would murder the baby. And then after that I moved back to Sunderland, and I got a normal girlfriend, the father of an army corporal.
Yeah.
A stable relationship with a young woman in Sunderland, and as I was walking back from a girlfriend's house to my own place in Sunderland, Someone drove in front of me in a taxi and dangled the baby out the taxi window, threatening to drop the baby in the middle of the dark road. And I believe that was probably the same people. So that was quite
Did they say
horrifying.
anything?
There was no shouts or threats, it was just a visual threat to drop the baby out the taxi window.
Was it your baby?
That's the thing that they tried to cover up. See, if they went to do DNA tests, and if she'd never been in my house, I've never been in her house, and I've never met her before, never seen her in a pub or anything, it would have been physical proof of an abduction.
Right.
So they just covered it up and said IVF or some crap like that. But they wanted me in that bedroom, in that back garden, so as they could exploit my telepathic contacts with my space friend. I need 5 miles, I think. That's something to get in my throat.
Are you alright? Has it happened before?
That's what happened before.
With your throat? Has this happened before?
It's not a programming attack, I don't think.
Okay, well we'll take 5.